Let's do it.
Welcome to the entire season is over, even for the good teams edition of Sharing Socks. I'm duty geezer Leigh Allan, with me my son, and back to being West Coast correspondent Will. And really, when we scheduled this, we're recording on Wednesday, the 19th of November. When we said, oh, let's do it Wednesday, there was nothing going on. We're just taking a chance. The White Sox have been good enough to provide us with a lot of news. I appreciate that. They don't usually help out like that. Uh, but there's
No,
quite a
they've
bit
they've
in the last 24 hours.
they've been quite active, and I will admit I was just kind of doing my, every other day checking of MLB trade rumors. And yesterday when I did it, the first thing that popped up was White Sox, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
But first, before the MLB trade rumor stuff, the big news, the Pope.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so for those who have, for some reason, not known, the White Sox threw the U.S. ambassador to the Vatican, who I think got the job because he founded and runs a kind of right-wing Catholic political organization. I'm sure funnels money to the right people for him to get a job this year. Uh, but anyhow, he's from Tinley Park, and so he's probably a Sox fan too. Who knows? Justin Ishbia, the new minority owner for the White Sox, although he may actually own more than Jerry Reinsdorf does. But at any rate, the guy who is, we hope, the future, got him to set up a meeting with the Pope. And Ishbia and his wife met with the Pope in the Pope Leo in the Vatican. And of course, we know the Pope is a huge White Sox fan, lifelong dedicated. And they invited him, and this is where it gets really interesting. They invited him to throw out the first pitch at the new White Sox stadium,
Yeah.
which of course does not exist, and as it stands, will not exist.
Yeah.
And apparently the Pope said, well, if my schedule permits. And that one of the articles where so who wrote about this, the writer put it, I like this, put in parentheses, apparently the Pope is busy.
Well, here's what I'll say about that. You ask him to throw out the pitch at the first stadium. If you need anyone on planet Earth to have faith and believe that a new stadium is coming, it's the Pope. It's the guy with the direct line to upstairs.
Well,
That's who you need.
you
It's a
got that.
smart
I got
move.
got to agree with that. The question is the motive of the move. It could be just for fun, a nice thing, hands across the sea, even if it's just the hands across the southern suburbs, to start with. But a nice gesture and a fun thing to do. Or it could be that Ishbia is as big a con artist as Jerry Reinsdorf, and is thinking if we get a steal where we can say, well, the Pope's going to throw out the first pitch, then all of a sudden we'll get our billions of dollars from that they don't have from the state and the city, so that we don't actually have to put our own money into this thing anymore, or very little of it. I
I
I
don't think
suspect
that's
a
even
con
going to
job.
work.
I don't
I
think
don't
it's
think
going to
it would
work
work.
either. That I suspect an attempted con job, although it's a nice thing to do, and I'm glad they did it. And it's a lot of fun. But I suspect there's an ulterior motive lurking down there because I don't think it should be as Catholic. Jerry Reinsdorf certainly isn't. Um, and it would be wonderful. It'd be a wonderful thing should the billionaires decide to build the stadium and all the costs that come with it on their own rather than trying to soak the taxpayers again. It would be a wonderful thing to have the Pope come and throw out the first pitch.
Or it's got nothing to do with trying to get money from the city and the state, but he's just trying to get a little bit of those tithings. Maybe he's thinking, oh, maybe the Pope will send around a collection plate at the next Mass that goes towards a new kind of church for people in America, which is a baseball stadium.
Well, the Vatican, has some artwork that, if sold off, could pay for a stadium easily.
There's some money in the Vatican. There is some money in, historically speaking, there's money in the Vatican. So I don't know what the motive is. My honest guess is Ishbia thought I've got a cool way to meet the Pope, so I'm going to meet the
Yeah,
Pope.
I
Uh,
think that's possible too. But and in that, if that's the case, it's fun and it's a neat thing. I hope it's not even deep underneath the conniving of, well, if we get the Pope in here, maybe that'll bring the money out. The taxpayers will pay for this.
no, I think we're too conspiratorial on the new guy already. If it was Reinsdorf, then it's a guarantee that that's what was happening. But I think with Ishbia, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt a little longer. We'll give him some grace, which is exactly what Pope Leo would want us to do.
And that's true. And he
Yeah,
will bless the team whether he throws out a first pitch or not. So
he
you've got
will.
that
He
going
sure
for
will.
you. Now, we know how much good his blessing done this past year, but
Hey,
he was just starting out. He didn't have time to spend much time and effort into it, but he'll have more later.
as I said before, you're gonna kill the brand if you perform a miracle on day one. You're gonna kill the brand. It's just not the White Sox brand, the Pope brand. You can't just pop in. All the Cardinals would be like, "Oh, dude, you can't just do it right from the jump like that." And the White Sox, the biggest miracle of all, you can't just do that. So I think he was just laying some Popely groundwork. We saw some improvements this season, and it felt like it was coming from a higher place. So I'm not too worried about it. But then we got rid of some of the guys from this
Yeah,
season.
the day before, they say we're recording on Wednesday, on Tuesday, two trades involving three players going away and three players coming in.
That's right. And I was truly shocked to see this movement so quickly. Um, there's nothing like electric about these deals, but I don't think either of them are bad trades. I think you took some low ceilings and traded them for some low ceilings, but reading up on the guys that we're going to get from Tampa at least, not great, nothing to get too excited about, but there is potential for guys who could play Major League Baseball. And as we know, as White Sox fans, we often get to a point where we just need bodies. We just need guys who you can put out there, and I'm okay with these deals.
I mean, yeah, one of the write-ups, you see the little blurb when you go online and you search it, there'll be a picture with a little blurb under it. One of the blurbs on one of the coverages of the Tampa trade said blockbuster. I said, really? What block have you been in
I mean,
that's been busted that easily?
I guess if you're talking about the Rays and the White Sox, maybe this is a blockbuster of a trade.
I
There's not a lot of blockbuster room to work with, so
well, yeah, more on their side than ours. The surprise, if any, was Steve Wilson. Steven Wilson going over to Tampa Bay along with Yoendris Gomez, and then later from Boston getting reliever back. So we haven't completely depleted the bullpen. Wilson was good last year. I mean, he wasn't great. He was better earlier in the year than later. He was 1.2 WAR. That was the second highest of any reliever on the team.
No, I agree. We talked about Steve Wilson a lot last year, especially as the deadline was approaching, because he was strong early on, and maybe they made a mistake not dealing him at the time, but there's just no reason to keep him right now. One, I don't think he's a guy that you can really depend on being good again. I think he'll be average and he'll stay average, but I don't think, getting rid
Well,
of
he's
Steve
30. He's
Wilson.
31, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So at this point, it's kind of like if you can get something that kind of wets your whistle, then go ahead and deal them. So I was a little surprised, but I certainly wasn't shocked that Wilson was part of a trade. And the return is iffy, but I also think in reality Wilson's pretty iffy. So there's no surprise there for me.
It just saves the decision because we're 2 days before tender non-tender day, and he was one of the three. White Sox had fewer players in that position than any team in baseball, fewer
Right.
than they've ever had
Right.
with
Yeah.
just three. Usually you have five, six, seven. Uh, so he was one of them. So they would have had to make a decision there. I would have thought they would have tendered him because it was cheap and he did well. But at any rate, they don't have that decision to make. They're down to Derek Hill and Mike Tonkman, and I think Hill will be non-tendered because the one pickup from the Rays is a guy who can play all outfield positions. So Grant, you hit
Yeah.
158, but that's about what Hill hit. So there's no big difference there, and it's hit very well in Broya. Am I pronouncing that right?
I don't know.
Everson. We'll call him Everson. Uh, Hit very well in AAA. He had an 868 OPS last year with 21 homers at Triple. Now that's league. That international league is a hitter's league
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. But
Totally.
still, even with that, that's not bad. But this major league has been awful. But I think that makes him the fact that they picked him up a very good chance he becomes outfielder number four.
Yeah, totally. It seems like that's the game plan, is that he's who they're picking up as like the utility outfielder. Which
I don't
which
know
I'm
what
okay
that
with
says
that.
for Brooks Baldwin, but Baldwin is outfielder, infielder, and then the other guy, Tanner Murray, is also a utility guy, utility infielder. I saw him described by one of the better, uh, more professional evaluators as a non-shortstop utility infielder, which makes him one of I don't know 35 non-shortstop utility infielders on the 40-man roster. Uh, come on, you can join Vargas and Sosa and Midra and Chad Mead and go on.
Yeah, totally.
Uh, there's a little competition for that, but he was in Durham. He had 18 homers. Again, a league with ballparks that are about the size of the average living room, but he did okay. And for an infielder, and apparently a good glove man if he's not a shortstop. So yeah, I'd say we didn't lose much, we didn't get much. Uh, but going from a position of relative strength to one of non-existence, the help is there, I guess. Then the other trade, I never even heard of the guy that we traded to the Red Sox. Had you?
No.
Ronnie Hernandez, who had been at Canapolis,
Yeah,
uh,
not familiar with his work.
679 OPS, which is not good, but for a catcher, perfectly adequate. But apparently, from every write up, he's terrible defensively. Uh, Not a good thing in a catcher, but maybe the Red Sox are different. This one, I kind of think it was a good White Sox trade. Chris Murphy is not a bad pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like we traded nothing for something. Unless the Red Sox are picking up on something we don't see with this catcher who can't play defense or hit. Uh, I think that's a great trade. I have no clue why it happened. I'm only suspicious of why it happened. It seems lopsided, but um, I liked the move. Maybe it was just one of those where people wanted to get the ball rolling on things, and this was something the White Sox
Yeah.
floated or the Red Sox floated, and I'm not sure what the Red Sox needs are exactly. Uh, Maybe they are just in a real pickle when it comes to who could be a backup backstop, but uh, yeah, I like the deal. I think it's a painless deal. And if you're going to start things off with a painless deal, I'm okay with that.
Murphy, I looked up something. He's 27. He was very bad in 2023, and as far as the major leagues went, he was pretty terrible. His ERA was well over five. Missed all of, and the reason could be explained in that he then had to have Tommy John surgery. So
Right.
maybe he was hurting the whole time. So he missed 2024. He missed part of last year. I think he came in June, uh, pitched 34 and two-thirds innings. And there's some warnings here. I mean, he had a 3.12 ERA, which sounds, boy, that's pretty good. Well, his FIP was 5.07,
Yeah.
which is saying maybe he was really, really lucky. And part of the sign with that is he walked 20 guys in 34 and two-thirds innings.
Yeah, his
No,
walk
that's
rate
and the White
is
Sox are real good
not
at
good.
guys who can walk that many people. We've got enough guys who walk people. That's why we lead the majors every year in it. But he still came up with half a WAR in that time. So it's worth a gamble on him. I think it may be that his control was bad because he'd been out for a year and a half.
Yeah, I think some of it might be just shaking off rust. Because his walk rate's really bad and his strikeout rate is pretty low, which is not a great sign for a Major League Baseball pitcher these days, um, especially if you're going to have low strikeouts and high walks. That's typically a bad combination. But that could just be coming off of surgery and not playing for a while. You know, I feel like we're seeing guys bounce back from that surgery, the first one, better than they used to. So I think it's a good pickup. You know, I don't think you're gonna have an ace or a great arm coming out of the bullpen there, but you might have a guy who can get you some innings without too much mess created out there, and you might see a lot of base runners, but hopefully not a lot of runs. Um, Ground ball rate seems to be ticking up with him, so you know if you can walk guys, if you can make the next guy hit into a double play.
Right? And he's a lefty, and the bullpen is a little short of lefties, so they need to pick up somebody to fill in there. So I think I mean the trades. Blockbuster, no, there are no blockbusters involved
No,
here.
no, I mean maybe
But
a Blockbuster went out of business, so maybe we just don't know what a Blockbuster is anymore. But no, there's no Jaws, there's no Star Wars, there's no Indiana Jones being dealt in this particular situation. But you know, maybe for a Tuesday in November, betwixt two mediocre to bad baseball teams, these were blockbusters. So we'll accept it. Everyone has their own version of a blockbuster, so we can let them have this. That's fine. I was interested. You've probably seen too that there's a lot of interest in the backstops, the catchers.
yes, yes, yes. And at first, it was all Miguel Caro. I mean, Miguel
Edgar
Edgar
Guerrero.
Caro, Edgar
Yeah.
Caro. I mean, Miguel Vargas, Edgar Caro. Yeah, Vargas probably catches too, but Edgar Caro mostly was on Caro. And then just in the last day or two, there were some people are looking at maybe Kyle Teal as a possibility. I don't know if that means anything. A lot of tire kicking, probably.
Yeah, I think I'm sure what happened was everybody was interested in Edgar Caro, and the White Sox said, no, absolutely not. You're not getting Edgar Caro. So then they said, okay, well, what about the other guy? And that's where the interest in Teal comes from. I think there's nothing to be dealt there. We don't know what these guys are yet. So you can't just deal them out for whatever at this point, you know. Yeah, we've got a little bit of a blessing of catchers with potential. But what we don't have right now is two-star catchers. So ideally, you do somehow in that combination end up with two-star catchers, see how it goes, and then you do absolutely deal one of them. But
Well, or Lee becomes very expendable.
right, exactly. We've got
Excuse me.
this spoil of riches of three catchers who potentially could be something. Um, but what you don't want to do is deal any of them right now. I mean, that's a huge mistake because you're going to be selling low unless some team is dumb enough to give you a huge package for potential. And you don't want to sell low because what's history tell us that guy's going to go to another team and he's going to be a lot better and you got rid of the best one of the three for nothing. So I don't think
Yeah, well,
any of
Teal,
the
of course, is
catchers are
hitting
going anywhere.
extremely well, or did hit extremely well. Caro hit pretty well, and for a catcher, very well. Uh,
But you still don't know yet.
defensively, none of the three gets any raves or any okays even. They're all very weak defensively uh, in one category or two categories or another. They're all very young. You know, the two catchers are 23, right? Caro
Yeah.
and Teal. So they've got a lot of room to learn. I hope as we speak, they're out working on their defensive skills. Uh, Caro is the most fun defensively because the way he picks guys off base, but his other skills are very lacking. So if they
Well,
work on,
theoretically, we're not going to have to worry about framing as much anymore.
and they're both bad framers, so yeah, framers will be less of a situation. Although you only get what, two appeals a game.
Yeah. Do you get to keep them if you win them though?
Oh yeah, it's like the other appeals. Yeah, you
Yeah,
keep them if you
I
win.
I assume so. So if you're good, you kind of have unlimited appeals.
Right, right, true.
But if you're wrong a lot, you use up your appeals real quick. But it does mean framing is technically less important than it was in 2025 because you do have that ability to challenge. And if you do it well, you could challenge a lot. Um, and I do think that this step that they're taking in 2026 is going to be uh, just a gateway to having the full uh, robotic system at some point in the relatively near future. Um, Now, I can't say anything about 2027 because we don't know if we're going to play baseball in 2027.
Yeah,
Um,
I oh
cool.
so 2027 is iffy. One of the people who will probably make them the most iffy is the beloved Jerry Reinsdorf, who was behind the last lockout and who hates players and hates fans and doesn't care if there's a season really. Uh,
Correct.
so he'll lead the way, and it depends how many other owners are willing to follow him in this possible debacle. Reading write-ups lately on it, 2025 was a great season for baseball, and I mean for baseball owners making money. Highest TV ratings, highest attendance, and then of course the postseason was marvelous, and
Yeah,
and set all
massive.
kinds of records in the World Series, particularly once you took in the worldwide. You had Japan and Canada involved. Uh, it is like baseball, unfortunately, like Major League Baseball, to commit suicide.
True.
It's their style. You're on a roll. You're coming. You're really great. All these terrific things are happening. You have huge stars of worldwide importance now. Let's kill it.
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen.
Yeah,
So,
I think 2027 is in huge trouble. Huge trouble. I don't see a world, and you can point fingers all over the place, and a lot of people, of course, are blaming the Dodgers for what's happening, but it's in real trouble. I think there's a very good chance there's not going to be a 2027 season. And if that happens, baseball is going to plummet, plummet out of popularity. There is
oh
no
yeah,
way to lose a season and keep people's interest. There's there's no
we'll
way.
go from MLB to MLP, Major League Pickleball. It'll
Yeah,
become all the
exactly.
rage for the summer.
Yeah, that is something will have to replace it at least for that year. I hope this doesn't happen. Of course, there's plenty of ways to avoid it happening. But I don't think it looks good. I think it's a huge, huge problem um for Major League Baseball and for the sport in general. They're going to really have to figure some stuff out over the next year. And the two sides, of course, they don't gel, but they seem to be gelling even less than than usual these days. Um, if Bryce Harper's lash out on Manfred was any indication, the players and the league and ownership are not going to go into this in a friendly way.
Well, they
Um,
never have, but this one seems like an absolute. We will have a salary cap. No, we won't. That's
yep.
pretty simple division right there.
Yeah, and I have mixed feelings on it because for the competitive balance of baseball, a salary cap is a good idea. But as a pro labor person, I don't believe that the owners should get to take home a lot more of the money than the players. People are going to see the players to see they're not going to see a team because of who owns it. They're going to see a team because of who's on the field. So I definitely don't think truly there should be a salary cap. What I think is the other teams who are mostly owned by people who own hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars should be making a greater effort to be competitive with the teams that are currently spending that kind of money. So clearly, my argument is completely in line with the players. Other than I have that little part of me that thinks the salary cap could be good for the balance of the league. You know, you see it in the NBA. Um, but gosh, it's just a mess to try to keep up with how the NBA works.
It is because of this debate in baseball or upcoming debate in baseball. I looked at the NBA. How does the NBA? I looked at the NBA and the NFL. How do these work? And come on, even AI can't figure it
Yeah.
out.
There's times where in NBA deals where it's like, well, they got to get rid of these three guys and this guy to unlock this $2 million, and if they get rid of him by then they'll unlock $9 million more, which can go to this guy, but not this guy because he demands this. But is that about money? No, it's about where he's previously played and when and how. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I have no clue how they put those teams together. But it does seem to somewhat work in terms of balance. Um, but I ultimately I'm with the players of you got to spend more money. You got to spend more money if you want to win. You don't even have to spend an insane amount of money. You just have to spend a little more money. And I realize when I say little, I'm talking about millions and millions of dollars. But I don't know. My sympathy for ownership is very, very small.
Of course, as we are fans of a team with one of the worst owners in the history of the game, it doesn't make us sympathetic to owners in that case. Um, yeah, there are worse owners, I guess, somewhere. Uh, Colorado, maybe. But
I don't know that there are worse owners. I don't think there are worse owners than Reinsdorf.
well,
I
the
there might
Angels,
be there might be people who are tied with Reinsdorf, but I don't think there's anyone that's actually worse. Because I would even argue that the Angels, yes, their owner terrible, but there is no way that anyone's ever going to care about the Angels here. I live in Los Angeles. People just don't care about the Angels. You're in the same, a lot of it has to do with the logo on the hats. But the Dodgers brand is just so far and away, even when the Dodgers weren't as good, they're so much more beloved than the Angels. It's not even close. And the Angels are far. They're out in Orange County. You know, calling them an LA team is generous at best in terms of geography. The White
well,
Sox,
they weren't an LA team for years and years. They kept
right.
changing.
And now they're what? They're the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim again, something like that.
Oh, I
What?
thought they were just, I thought they dropped the Anaheim altogether. No, they
Yeah,
were that for a while.
they might just be the Los Angeles Angels, which is laughable. The White Sox are inside the city limits of the third biggest market. And I think even though the Cubs are obviously the more loved team, if the
But
White Sox were winning, they would be just as popular in the city of Chicago. If the White
when
Sox could win, the Cubs have the north suburbs, the west suburbs. They've got the suburbs, people. They've got them. But the White Sox, it's inexcusable to not be spending when you are a major market team. He would absolutely get a return on this team being successful. This is not Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. This is not, I put a bunch of money in the team and there's no market return possible, or there's a limit to what that can be. There's no limit with the White Sox. You've got one of the most famous logos in the whole game. You've got a great looking brand. If you won games, you would make money. You would make a ton of money if you won games, which I'm sure Reinsdorf learned in 2005. But now he's at this other stage, now that he's 170, where he can't even compute that. And he just doesn't care. He just does not care.
I
That's
don't think he's long hated the players and the fans. He's despised that he have to pay his people. He despises the fact that people won't shovel money at him. But I think long ago, now he got into the game and as well as buying bulls for tax reasons. He's a tax lawyer, and it's all about finding
right.
the best tax avoidance businesses there are and he's in major real estate and sports. They have special tax breaks that are unbelievable. There's no excuse for it, but they both have them. Yeah, he's only missing the oil depletion allowance. Uh, like I've said before, I'm surprised that there's not a Derek in center field so he can get that. Uh, but I don't think he likes baseball anymore.
No, he doesn't.
He grew up playing baseball. I believe that part. He grew up in Flatbush. He had to grow up liking baseball. I don't even think he likes the game anymore. I
No,
think he's
I
just totally
totally agree.
disinterested in the whole thing, and he's just hanging on and not selling because he'd have to pay taxes. He's a tax lawyer. That's what Jerry Reinsdorf is. He is a tax lawyer, tax lawyer, tax lawyer, a
Yeah.
control freak tax lawyer. And if he dies, all of a sudden there are no capital gains taxes to be paid because of another insane American tax rule. And uh, everything's just hunky dory for everybody else who's got stock, or for the people who inherit his stock. Uh, I just think that's just what he's hanging in for. He's got no interest in this game anymore.
No, none, none. I don't even know if he attends the game. Maybe he shows his face at opening day. I have no idea. But he's clearly got no interest in this sport whatsoever. Yes, a lot of baseball owners are rich people who are not ideal human beings, but a lot of them care about the game. And a lot of them go to the game. They want to win, even if they're not willing to spend to win. I say all this hesitantly because I'm speculating, but Reinsdorf just seems completely absent from the concept of
Yeah, at
baseball
the very
itself.
least, the other guys who are getting their tax breaks too, uh, they're not unaware of the tax benefits they get from owning the teams. But you're right, they like the game. They enjoy being a sports owner. Many of them show up game after game, even they got other businesses to run. Uh, but beyond that, it's a neat thing at your country club to go be able to have people point and go, he owns such and such
Yeah,
baseball or basketball or football team. Yeah, that's you know who that is. And then you have the bragging rights when you're out there on the golf course. You get to say, yeah, we got a pretty good team this year. I think we got a good crack. We're going to make the playoffs. We're pretty sure. That
yeah.
kind of thing. It's a big ego boost for them, as it should be. And I don't think he even gets any ego out of it, or else he wouldn't let the team be total crap. I mean, the team's been crap since 2012, basically. In the
Yeah,
two winning seasons, but they were freaks because of incredibly easy schedules. Uh,
yeah.
and it's just been lousy, and he doesn't care. If he cared at all, he wouldn't have come. He brought Tony La Russa back in. Uh, it's his plaything. He wants to control anything and everybody the way he controls every seat on the board of White Sox charities. He won't let any outsiders have a seat there. It's all run by him.
That's insane.
Everything, everything. Was it the Athletic headline that the owner who thinks he knows everything? Uh, yeah.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That is about all the time we have for this week. Do you have any final thoughts before we say our
No,
goodbyes?
we didn't even get into it, but there's some new top 100 prospect lists out. There's not a whole lot of surprise anywhere, except that Hagen Smith has dropped way down. No surprise, Noah Schultz and Braden Montgomery up top, and the guy who's getting a lot of mention, well, it's getting mentioned on both of them is Kalen Bonner, the new
Yeah,
Bonner, the new shortstop draftee. So that'd be great to have a real shortstop. You move Montgomery to third, and although Montgomery, goodness gracious, he's done a good job at short. That's the big surprise. We're talking Colson, not Braden, of course. Uh, he's done a nice job there. He's not going to wow anybody, but he's getting the job done. But it'd be nice to have a guy who does wow him, and then he can get the job done elsewhere.
well, especially after we signed Kyle Tucker this offseason and Bo Bichette and then trade for Tarek Skubal. So the future is definitely
I
bright.
don't know how the Tigers fell for it with two single A outfielders for Skubal. I mean, who knew?
Who knew? Who knew that's what they were really looking for? But we got him. We got him. We'll get you, Detroit. All right. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next time on Sharing Socks.